Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm It's Robbie Rhino, and in today's video we are going to be having a look at the Soviet Tier 9 tank destroyer, the SU-122-54, which leads on to the Object 263, which is currently on track until the 7th of December. So you still have 5 days as this video goes out to go through this line and get to the top tiers, Tier 9 and Tier 10, and they are a lot better now that they have buffed a lot of tanks in this line. So let's have a little look at what they've actually done to the Tier 9 tank destroyer, and then I have 2 replays to show off the tank for you. So the only thing that they have changed with the SU-122-54 is the armor profile. They've changed the hull armor to 165mm from 100, and they've changed the upper and lower armor values surrounding the gun mantlet. The lower from 160 to 180 and the upper from 140 to 170. And it's a lot easier just to show you on Tanks GG kind of how this affects it really. So we're going to look at the whole armor first, and that's 65mm that they've changed. And you might be thinking like the whole is this whole area here, but it's actually, if I could just go in for you there, it's just this little bit here and around here, this whole armor where you say it's impacted angle, it says 100mm, that's now 65mm more. It's just this little square here. It doesn't include these cheeks here, which are actually 18mm thick, and they are still 18mm thick, so please be wary of that. And it doesn't affect the lower plate, which is still 18mm, which is quite weak. So it looks a lot better statistically on paper than it does actually when you look into the actual values of it. But we're going to have a quick look at sort of the effective angles of the hull now. So before it was about effective, looking straight on, 140 in most areas, 145, just add 65 to that, so you know 210mm roughly of effective. And when you're angling, kind of, I guess you can sort of go up to about 220, 230, sort of some extreme angles you might be heading up towards like the sort of 240, 250 mark, which is a lot better. It bounces sort of tier 7 and 8 rounds, and it can be quite good in that regard. And around the gun mantlet, so the lower they've increased it by 20mm and upper by 30, so lower by 20, and as you can see here, it's just this little plate here, 160mm, so dead on you're going to be increasing it by, let's have a look, it was 20, wasn't it? So lower you're going to be increasing it by sort of to about 180, maybe 200 in some areas when you're angling, that sort of thing, of effective armor. And the upper was by 30mm, and if you look here, there's this plate here which is 160 with some spaced armor. That's now, yeah, maybe sort of 230, 240 in some areas when you're angling. So it's a lot better at bouncing lower tiered rounds than some guns that have penetration lacking at tier 9, but tier 10 tanks, a lot of them, especially tank destroyers and medium tanks, that kind of thing, are just going to go straight through you. But I prefer to play this tank, and I think it excels in a very stealthy sort of gameplay. And I'll be talking you through that when I look into my commander and my equipment setup. So I'll head over and I'll show you that really quickly, and then we'll get stuck into the replays. So now we're going to have a look at the equipment setup that I use on this tank, which is advanced concealment, advanced loader and traction system. Commander wise, I use 6th Sense, Born Leader, Steady Aim, Rapid Aim, Run and Gun, Snapshot, Camouflage Expertise, Muffled Shot, and Situational Awareness. And as you can see, that gives me a view range of 433 meters and a still concealment of 202 meters, meaning it's very nice for outspotting my opponents. And we're going to have a quick little look at the statistics, and then I'll head into the replays. So this tank has 1530 hit points, which is relatively low for tier 9, but you can make it work because you play that stealthy role. 390 meters base view range. It's got a 700 horsepower engine with 54 kilometers an hour top speed forwards and 18 kilometers an hour top speed reverse, but I go now 60 forwards and 20 reverse with that traction system. The traverse speed base is 40 degrees a second, but the traction system means I now go 44 degrees a second, which is very nice for keeping up with medium tanks and light tanks that try to circle you. And now we're going to have a little look at the gun, which is a really, really nice aspect of this tank. So fully upgraded, it's a 122mm gun with 440 alpha damage on its standard AP and its heat rounds, and 530 alpha damage on its HE rounds. The penetration on its AP is fairly nice at 258, but the heat rounds are amazing at 340, meaning you can butter through heavy tanks you're going to meet at tiers 8, 9 and 10. The rate of fire is 7.06 rounds a minute, which is not too bad, meaning that you reload in 8.5 seconds. But as you can see now, I've got that up with my setup to 8.53 rounds a minute, and yeah, that's really, really nice DPM for tier 9. The base aim time is 2.3 seconds, which is very, very nice indeed. And the accuracy isn't too bad at 0.32, but as you can see, I now have that at 0.28, which is very, very nice. Unfortunately, the gun has 4 degrees of gun depression, which is very awkward to use on a lot of ridge lines. But if you sort of stay back and use sort of hills and foliage and that kind of thing to your advantage, you can make that work. It has 16 degrees of elevation, which isn't too bad, and it carries 35 rounds of ammunition, so you do have to be a little bit careful with that DPM about running out of ammo. And that's it for the tanks statistics, so let's head into the gameplays. So we're now in the first replay of the video. We're here on Moravanka, which is a recently revamped map, and it's a really enjoyable map. It's one that I missed when it was out of rotation. And this map is actually a fairly decent map for a sort of stealthy tank destroyer. It provides you ample opportunity to use the foliage and, you know, the sort of ridge lines to stay hidden, whereas it has, you know, also has long sight ranges, so meaning that you can outspot your opponents. And as you can see here, I've set up on this sort of fairly typical kind of position that a lot of tanks go to. There's a little brawling area down sort of in EF3, that's where a lot of the heavy tanks like to go. And I'm just kind of overviewing that area, seeing if I can get a shot at the start of the battle, but I kind of underestimated just the kind of low profile nature of this tank here, and you can see I was having a bit of trouble acquiring a shot at the tanks right at the back of sort of where they're coming out of their spawn. But I'm just going to sit here, and when I have the chance I'm going to fire through this bush so that I retain my camo rating, and we get a nice shot there into the chisel. And I'm going to try and play kind of as stealthy as possible where needed, but I also wanted to kind of test out the armor, because these were my sort of first few battles, or this first couple of battles that I played since this tank was buffed. I guess, yeah, it is a buff, but unfortunately I wish they, you know, they changed a little bit more about the tank, maybe a little bit more penetration or even more of a buff to the armor. But I think it's a fairly reasonable tank. It's kind of underestimated sometimes, especially with the DPM. So now I've kind of just repositioned ever so slightly. I've come backwards a little bit more, back to this sort of little, I don't know what you want to call that, like a lighthouse area, and I'm going to use this as hard cover to try and avoid artillery fire, just in case they are aiming at me. I'm going to re-stealth and kind of rinse and repeat, and unfortunately here I will be getting spotted, most likely because I'm firing, and I'm not firing through foliage, but I do have that hard cover to fall back on, which I'm going to try and use. And I noticed that Conqueror is stock, so he's not as big a threat as maybe I once thought he was. So that's something to always take into consideration. You can tell if a tank is stock when, you know, you can either look physically at their gun and you know it's their stock gun, or you can look at their hit points, and if their hit points are less than what it usually is fully upgraded, and that they are using a different gun, a stock gun usually. So we get a nice couple of shots, or a few shots into that Emil 2 and finish that Emil off very quickly, and you can see that alpha damage working very nicely there. We get a pixel shot there on the Conqueror's turret, and as you can see the accuracy is actually very nice. When you fully aim in, you know, especially after 6.0, you are going to hit a majority of your shots. kind of a chancy shot there on the chisel. That has a lot of spaced armour, so I wasn't expecting with AP rounds of 258mm of penetration to necessarily always go through, but he gets shut down by the artillery. And we have picked up 1539 damage and 901 assistance, so it's not too bad a start to the game, but I notice we are sort of starting to wrap up this game already, as often happens. You know, sometimes you get those sessions where you get a lot of these games that don't last too long, so I'm going to push up. I've got all my hit points left. I'm maybe going to try and sort of see what I can bounce, if I can bounce anything, and I have enough hit points now to take a shot or two and use my DPM to take out the enemy tanks. And I'm pushing forwards because I have faith in my camo rating and my view range, and I think that I'm almost certainly going to outspot wherever I come across. See this artillery, get a nice shot into the Object 261, and we're going to try and just duck down below the ridge. The Object 261 fires at someone else, but there is a Waffly 100, and I'm going to just use this building to stay out of the Waffle's way. He gets to take two massive shots by my teammates, which put him on a one shot for me, and we take out the Waffle as well as picking up all that lovely juicy assistance damage by pushing forwards. And that's a really good thing to do at this kind of point in the battle, when you know the game is, you know, is basically won, or you're sort of 99% sure it's won. But if you have your hit points, you can take a shot. Why not go forwards and get that assistance and that damage for yourself, because you're going to get the XP for it. So we come up to this T-110-54 who has his lovely broadside to us, and we get a nice shot directly into the side of that E4. Get another one on the move slightly into the lower plate of the E4 and roll extremely high. We do take a shot, and you know, I'm not too worried about that, because that's the last shot of the game, and if I didn't take that shot I wouldn't have got the damage. So that's a fairly kind of average game that I've been having in this tank since it's been buffed, sort of about 3 to 4k damage. But we get up the sniper medal there, 1377 base experience points, 3.3k direct damage and 1600 assistance. So let's hop into the second replay and see what I get up to there. So we are now in the second replay of the video, and we are here on Cliff, which is another map that I actually quite enjoy. And I'm going to take the SU-122-54 to the one line and see if I can get some early shots down where the tanks sort of go forward into that little bowl area at EF1. I'm going to come to a position that I go to quite frequently in nice stealthy tanks, and that is this position just on the edge of C1, C2. You have lots of line of sight here down to where the tank destroyers like to sit, back in their spawn, and as you can see you can get shots through the foliage, stay hidden on shots that come up and try to rush the middle area. And we've already picked up 400 damage and 297 assistance, you know, just in the first minute, which is very nice. And we get a tank taken out. Unfortunately, two of our tanks sort of gone forwards and got themselves killed, but what can you do? You just got to try and impact the game as much as possible in your own way. And I don't want to be too sort of impatient here. There wasn't something spotted for a while, but I didn't really want to move at this point of the battle. I'm going to try and snipe into the cupola of the 50 TP, and the accuracy works for us again there, meaning we get a lovely shot in. As you can see, my reload there is 7 seconds, which is really nice for 440 alpha damage, and if you can keep this gun singing, you will rack up the damage. So I'm just sort of seeing if I think that medium right in front of me is going to push forward to try and spot. Obviously, you don't always know if your teammates have good view range, and they're going to be able to spot for you. Take a little blind shot there and unfortunately don't connect. I think I might have saw a shell tracer there earlier, or it's a very common sort of TD spot along that ridge line, so I just took a speculative shot. Miss a shot on the, so I think it's the Yag Panther there, or the Yag Tiger, I can't remember, I think it's the Yag Panther. And we're just going to push up a little bit more, enhance our combat rations, push out our view range a little bit more, and see if we can outspot anything that might be coming, or any of those TDs that might have poor camo rating, or might have a worse commander equipment setup than me. I'm just going to slightly edge forward, and there we go. Get that Yag Panther there, spot that Yag Panther up, get a shot in, get some more assistance, and that Yag Panther's panicking a bit going up the hill, and we get a lovely shot through the side, and there we go, we're up to 2k combined already. And now I feel like it's kind of a time now to push forwards into this little bowl area. A lot of their tanks look like they might be congregating around the sort of G5-6 area, and maybe sort of still in their spawn. I noticed there's still 3 tank destroyers, and they do like to sit along that kind of HJ line in their spawn. Going to come up here, going to have shots across to where those heavies might be. Got to be a little bit wary here. This is kind of an artillery kind of hot spot. This is kind of a hotly contested kind of area. Going to aim a shot in there to the center, make sure that we lead that as best as we can. That is something to note, that this tank has about 940 or 960 meters a second shell velocity. It's 940 on its AP and 920 on its heat, so you have to be wary of that. It's not the fastest, it's definitely not the slowest, not like a dirt gun, but it is slower than APCR, and you know, you do have to be wary of that and adjust your aim accordingly. So we now have shots into the back of its Stritzfarn K. Missed our first shot there, but we got our second shot in and finished the Stritzfarn K off. Now there's this 50 TP, but he goes into cover, and there's this T-54 lightweight. We're going to try and get a shot as this tank comes through. We try and fire through the bush to try and stay hidden, but that tank does have fairly decent camera rating and view range, and there's no surprise that we get spotted there. So we're going to just duck down now, try and stay out of the artillery's fire, and if that T-54 lightweight was to come after me now, I could back myself against that wall, being non-turreted, and I can use my 44 degrees a second traverse to keep up with him. And now I'm just going to go back up now. I've been re-stealthed for a while, so hopefully the artillery isn't looking this way, and I'm going to try and see if I can catch up that light tank or anything else that might be coming this way. Can't see anything at the moment. This CS-59 is saying GG, so maybe he thinks like that 705 might be coming around, and I'm just going to turn around and see if I can cover in case that heavy tank does pop round into this little bowl. And if that 705 did, me and this CS-59 would be able to take him out. So it looks like the tanks are crossing towards our base and trying to go up now to assist my artillery in staying alive. Got a shot here on the 50 TP, but the CS-59 finishes him off for me, which is always a nice result. We were losing, so it's nice to get guns out of the game. That setter makes a big mistake poking too far around the corner, and we get a lovely shot in, and that's where 440 alpha damage is really sweet. It allows you to finish off tanks that are sort of between 400 and sort of 460, 470 if you high roll. I'm going to come around now and try and play with this Conqueror. I feel like I've got the DPM to sort of take him on, and I was kind of trying to test out the armor here a little bit, but as you can see, the Conqueror, it hasn't really got any problems going through me at the moment. We get 2 lovely shots into the Conqueror whilst avoiding the artillery, and our friend in the CS-59 finishes the Conqueror off, and we are up to 3.3k damage and 1750 assistance, and we have blocked a little bit. We blocked 840, so it's not too bad. And I think sometimes in a tank like this, you're not going to block a mammoth amount, but just that extra bounce or 2 per game because of the buffs is going to help this tank out a lot. So there's this T-54 lightweight coming round now. As you can see, my traverse speed is just about enough to keep up with the T-54 lightweight, and I was trying to get as close to that wall as possible, so if I do try and, if the T-54 lightweight does try and circle me, he won't be able to get behind me. I'm going to use like hard cover behind me so that I'm not getting circled, and that's a really good little beginner tip for anyone that doesn't know. Don't sit out in the open and let them circle you. Try and find some hard cover, reverse up to it, and they can only go around you in like a little bit of a semicircle then. Free aim a lovely shot into the T-54 lightweight there. And I duck down now. Unfortunately, he does catch me, but we still have 783 hit points. It's equal on the teams, and I'm just going to try and play this patiently. There's 2 TDs in C and D1, and if anything does come into this bowl, like to the rear of me, I'm almost certain they will spot the tank coming, so I don't have to worry too much. I just sort of try and keep the focus ahead of me. Going to try and get another shot into this T-54 lightweight. Going to wait and try and predict where he's going. It looked like he was turning to the right and swinging around, so we lead our shot well, and we get a shot into the T-54 lightweight, and the IS-6 finishes the T-54 lightweight off before being finished off by the Sky Piggy. But then our Sky Piggy kills their Sky Piggy. Circle of Life in action there in World of Tanks. I'm not pinging the tank destroyers sort of in anger. I'm just trying to get them maybe to move up a little bit and trying to assist me with a little bit of view range down the one line. And if anything did come up sort of trying to get me, I was trying to you know, use them as either a distraction on my view range so I can get shots into the enemy team. But now that I know that I've got their support and they are pushing up, I'm going to try and push forwards and see if I can spot what's in their base. And we actually outspot their Rumtel Borsig, which is really, really difficult because that has absolutely fantastic camo rating as well, and good view range, or decent enough view range. So I'm fairly surprised that I outspotted the Borsig there actually. But that's the perks of having, you know, a 9-skill commander and choosing the right equipment. There's also an iron rain to my sort of left straight in front of me now, so I do have to be very careful, and I can see I'm thinking about just pushing forwards. But I don't feel like now is a really, really good time to do it. I'm just going to have to chance it, turn around, use that traverse speed and get the hell out of there, because I just don't feel like it's worth staying there. That iron rain is going to two-shot me, and I'm also a two-shot for the Borsig, so I'm going to try and reposition, you know, try and relocate and play from a different position and try and use my camo rating and my view range to outspot the enemy team somewhere else and try and keep them guessing. But as you can see, we've picked up 4.2k direct damage and 1700 assistance, which is a very nice result already for this tank, and we're going to try and get a little bit extra. We've blocked 1090, which shows, you know, that you can block a little bit in this tank now. Before it was, you know, everything would just butter you, and the majority of things that tier 9 and 10 still do, in my opinion. If you're using your sort of 4 degrees, or the max of your 4 degrees, and if they're looking up at you or you're moving, they can catch your mantlet or an angled surface and ricochet. And like I said about a few minutes ago, sometimes it's just those 1 or 2 ricochets you need, and that little bit of luck per game, meaning that you survive and you can take down the result. So I was thinking about going up on top of the hill here because it's a really nice position to overlook the rest of the battlefield, but I see this tier 9 waffle Panzer IV, and he was going to spot me if I went up that hill. There's no chance, I don't think, that I would have stayed hidden. I might have misjudged that, but I turn around, get a shot in, and now I'm just using hard cover to avoid the artillery, and he's coming up after me, so I'm just going to duck down, and I'm going to try and use my artillery here to get shots into anything that I spot, and I'm going to try and create a little bit of an angle, get further away so that I have foliage and I have hard cover in between me and that waffle, but he just catches me as I get into the hard cover, which is really frustrating, and the friendly artillery says that he has no shot, which is really unfortunate, and I'm kind of in a really difficult position now. I guess I made a misplay. Looking back, I made a little bit of a misplay. Maybe I should have just gone for the hill, taken the shot, which I could have done, and got into an advantageous position. It would have been ideal if my friendly artillery would have maybe stayed towards the base, but I can understand why he relocated, trying to support me. It's not anything he did wrong. Obviously, hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? You know, you can always think about things that you could have done. Sort of not panicking, but I was really hopeful that, you know, this game had the opportunity to be a really, really epic game. Get a shot into the Iron Rain. I'm just trying to duck down before the Iron Rain gets a shot on me, trying to avoid the artillery. Unfortunately, Iron Rain gets a shot into me. Borsig's going over the ridge line. I fire a shot on the move, unfortunately miss. I was trying to get under the gun line. But yeah, that's the end of that battle for me, unfortunately, and we have a fairly decent result, but this is quite a little interesting finish here. Spoiler alert, we don't win, but this M53-55 has a really good fist of it. It gets a lovely shot finishing off that Whipple Panzer IV, and obviously the enemy tanks know where he is, and they know where he was facing, so I'm just going to see if if anyone else is stupid enough to come around the corner again. And everyone that played this game knows that there are people stupid enough to come around the corner again. I've done it before, and yeah, the Borsig does that and gets obliterated like a like his older brother there in the Waffle Panzer IV. And this M53-55 is making a real good effort of trying to finish this game off. This Iron Rain's coming around, and if he could just get that reload off, he'd be able to sort of splash this Iron Rain to death. He's trying to get under the Iron Rain's gun line, maybe quickly go for a snapshot on the move, but the Iron Rain does take the game down for the enemy team. But I thought that's a little funny ending of the replay there that I'd keep in. So unfortunately we lose that one, but we do pick up 6.7k combined damage, finish second on the team, 3 kills, and yeah, it just shows what you can do. And if I played that one a little bit better, maybe I could have taken that one down. So I hope you've enjoyed my mini review of the sort of buff to this tank and how I play this tank. Let me know in the comments what you think and whether you like this tank. I hope you're all having a great week. I'll see you on the battlefield, and bye for now.